then only you unmute yourself and ask me any doubt. Anyway, we have a doubt session, last 15 minutes. So, as you know, literary ages are very important in English literature. So, we all know that today we are going to start Victorian Age. So, Victorian Age started from Queen Victoria's accession, the reign of Queen Victoria in 1837 to 1901. So, mostly the 19th century literature. So, there was a conflict during this period. That was science versus religion. We know that if science grows, religious beliefs will be decreased. So, an important quote made by Matthew Arnold about this conflict between science and religious beliefs. So he compared two worlds, wandering between two worlds. One is dead, the other powerless to be born. This quote was made by Matthew Arnold. So this age, particularly known as age of prose and age of realism, particularly we know realism of writings from Charles Dickens and George Eliot. Their novels are mostly realistic and quite related to everyday life. So, this is also known as the age of reforms, age of doubt, age of democracy. So, the second Renaissance period. The Victorian is known as second Renaissance period. So, historical events, some historical events were there in during this period. First is Chartist movement that was in 1838. So, what is this Chartist movement? In 1832, Reforms Act failed to extend right to vote to the common people. There was no right to vote for the common people. So, in 1938, London Working Men Association was started by Thomas Lowlett. So, their major demand, the movement's major demand was right to vote. So, Reforms Act in 1867 extended the right to vote to male only. as the time went on, in 1918, all men got vote, but women were not given a chance to vote, a right to vote. So in 1928, all women got the right of vote. So,
Nanis,
and there was a
Manish.
social unrest also during these historical events.
उधर करा
1833
डिग्री
Factory Act,
स्पेल बंग इसको
which
ये
says rights
ओ मार
to,
इसको उधर ले
which demands
उधर लेता
rights to child workers and reduction of working hours. And in 1842, Mines and Collieries Act so banned all the women and children under 10 from underground work. So here in this period there was one more important thing, that was hungry parties, so in which era we had hungry parties. So simply that is Victorian era. So due to unemployment, due to slump in trade in 1839, and one more important thing, potato blight disease was there in 1845, and one more thing, Education Act 1870, 1876, and two acts were there. Children under 10 were compulsory educated. So another important thing was Great Exhibition that occurred in 1851, which reflected the glory of commerce. That means which brought commercial glory in the Victorian period. So, and this era was also energized by, we all know that this era was energized by the Origin of Species, an important book which was written by Darwin. Theory of evolution was interpreted in this book that was published in 1859, which is the remarkable book in this era. And we have Darwinian critics. For example, 1859 publication of The Origin of Species, and in 1863 Huxley's Man's Place in Nature, Does God Exist? These two words. And here he termed one more, he coined one more term, that is agnosticism. It is the status between the existence of the God and non-existence of the God. So, and one more 1863 book, that Lyell's The Antiquity of Man. In 1871, Darwin's one more book was published, The Descent of Man. And there were biblical critics. So David Frederick Strauss, so Life of Jesus, one more important book. Simultaneously, science and religion both were competing each other during this period. So 1854, Feuerbach's Essence of Christianity. So These are the important historical events during this Victorian period. And there were three phases of Victorian age. First one is 1837 to 48, that's 11 years. Early Victorian, 1848 to 70, Middle Victorian period. During the early Victorian period, there was turbulence and economic, social, political crisis were there. In the Middle Victorian period, economically strong and colonization was expanded during this period. In 1870 to 1901, so late Victorian period. This period was known as a doubt period, skepticism. So this period questioned the God, whether God is there or not. The existence of God was questioned here. So one more important term, Victorian compromise. This is a very important term. G.K. Chesterton, also known as Prince of Paradox. So what is this Victorian compromise? There was a compromise between thought and action, science and religion, technology and theology, wealth and poverty, the enlightenment of upper class, industrialization, imperialism. On the other side, poverty, deprivation of lower classes, and people colonized. So you have to remember Victorian compromise here, that was coined by G.K. Chesterton. So there were literary events. We have three major literary movements were there. So one is the Oxford movement. So John Henry Newman, John Keble, both are the precursors of this movement. It is a renewal of, what is this Oxford movement means? It is the renewal of Roman Catholic thought and practice within the church. We know that during the period of Renaissance, the king only ordered supremacy. King was the supremacy of the church. But during this period, the Oxford movement, the renewal of Roman Catholic thought and its practice was brought into the church. So here you have to remember one more important book here, Apologia Pro Via Sua, autobiography of John Henry Newman. And the second movement, aesthetic movement, already we know that art for art's sake movement. This is the importance of aesthetic values than moral. Importance was given to aesthetic values than moral values and social values. So it draws ideas, these ideas from Theophord Gracius. Gaussius refers to his book, so Mademoiselle Timofin. This was the book. From its preface, this art for art's sake was taken. So one more here important thing we have to remember. This arts for art's sake roots were traced from Immanuel Kant's Critique of Judgment. So here Walter Pater, the English writer, proudly brought into English the art for art's sake movement was brought into English by Walter Pater, and the Renaissance, his book, famous book you have to remember, the Renaissance Studies in Art and Poetry. So during this period, the main important figure of this movement was Oscar Wilde in a Victorian period. Next, one more thing is pre-Raphaelite movement. As we all know that it was originated in Rome and formed by D.G. Rossetti, Lehunt and Millais in England, which was inspired by Italian painters before Raphael. Its aim is to return to the older principles. Return to the older principles. So, their periodical was the germ, which was established, founded in 1850. So major characteristics we have to remember during this period. Number one, the origin of species, which energized the movement, which energized the Victorian period. One more thing is the great exhibition that was in 1851, which brought commercial glory after hungry 40s. And one more important thing here to be remembered, the decrease in the cost of publishing and printing, which led to rise of periodicals and magazines. So this is about historical and historical events and literary events. So regarding this, if you have any doubt or anything, you can ask me immediately. We can go to next poets. Is this okay for you? Kindly respond. Is this okay, dear friends? Okay. Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you. So three important characteristics. Once again, origin of species, which energized the era, and the great exhibition, the glory of commerce, and decrease of publishing and printing costs, and which led to the rising of periodicals, number of periodicals and magazines. Okay, these three are main important, and you have to remember three movements were there: Oxford movement, aesthetic movement, pre-Raphaelite movement. Oxford movement, John Henry Newman, John Keble, and aesthetic movement, Oscar Wilde during this period, and which was brought into English by Walter Pater. His important book, The Renaissance, Its subtitle is Studies in Art and Poetry, and Pre-Raphaelite movement, as you know already, which was formed by D.G. Rossetti. Okay, right. Next, so importantly, we have some important poets during this period. Particularly, this era starts with Alfred Lord Tennyson, and next Browning. One minute, sorry. Okay, sir, welcome back. Sorry for the interruption. So, Alfred Lord Tennyson, his period, he was born in 1809 and passed away in 1892. So, here we have to remember one thing about him is the second greatest quoted poet in English. First one is Shakespeare, second Lord Tennyson, next third one is Pope. So Tennyson was the second greatest quoted poet in English. So he became a poet laureate in 1850 after Wordsworth. The same year, the importance we have to interrelate. The same year, his famous elegy for his friend Arthur Henry Hallam, In Memoriam was published in the same year. He became poet laureate in 1850. So, in this one important quote was there, quote is there, that is, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. It's a Canto 26. So his works are mostly based on Greek mythology and narrative poems with philosophy. So his first work, which was published in 1827, Poems by Two Brothers. Poems by Two Brothers is a first published work. So it was mentioned that at the age of 12 he wrote an epic poem of 600 lines, The Devil and the Lady. So in 1829, Timbuktu, Timbuctoo, a poem which got a Chancellor's Prize. So important poems are starting from here, that is Mariana. Mariana in the moated grants. This is the line taken from Shakespeare's Measure from Measure. So published in the collection of poems chiefly lyrical. This is the poetry collection. So in which we have this poem Mariana. Its common theme is sad and hopeless isolation. Its common theme is sad and hopeless isolation. So this is Mariana. The connection, it has a connection with Shakespeare, and its theme sad and hopeless isolation. So this is an important poem, and some narrative poems with more philosophy. The Lady of Shalott. It is a ballad. Motte d'Arthur. It is a morning song about his friend Arthur Henry Hallam. Sir Galahad, the one more important poem, and Sir Launcelot and Queen Guinevere. So these four are included in Idylls of the King. Idylls of the King are 12 poems. 12 poems. So idyll means a short description in verse about an incident or of rustic life. So Lady Shalott, the second poem, set in Camelot, a town. It is about the lady's Charlotte's isolation in the tower and her decision to participate in the living world. So it's a philosophical poem. Next, Sir Galahad. Experience of vision of the Holy Grail. Holy Grail. It is in Greek mythology a treasure, an important motif of Arthurian literature. Holy Grail. Holy Grail is nothing but a cup or dish which has the miraculous power to heal any kind of melancholy or disease. So this is quite related to Holy Grail. You remember this, Sir Galahad, Holy Grail. Next, another poem that is Two Voices. Two Voices. So first it was titled as Thoughts of Suicide. It has some autobiographical connections. We have one voice. Human life is all pain and despair and ends in nothing. Like in Telugu, Anta Bhranti Ena type. This is. Next one is second voice, which includes life is a risky thing. We have to excel in life. It speaks about the hidden hope of human life. It one encourages, one is belief, the other is despair. So two voices are there in this poem. And here three love poems are there. finest love poems. These are also included in idylls. The Miller's Daughter, The Gardener's Daughter, Oenan. Oenan. 3 love poems. The first, The Miller's Daughter. His fate in love after marriage. This Miller's Daughter represents love after marriage. So Gardener's Daughter, it is a love poem but has no importance. So Oenan is a Greek mythical lady character. Oenan. It is a recollection of incidents in the life of Paris. Paris is her lover, who involved in the Trojan War. The Trojan War hero, Paris. And Oenan. So her recollections and the incidents of the life of Paris. So mostly inspired by a trip to Spain. So one thing you have to remember that Pyrenees mountains. In Tennyson's work, we have Pyrenees mountains. You remember this. He visited Pyrenees mountains. Geographical connection is there. That is Pyrenees mountains, and it is these mountains are in Spain. Next, one more, the Palace of Art. The Palace of Art. It is against the pride and luxury of art. Actually, it is against the slogan, art for art's sake. The Palace of Art is against the slogan of
But still
aesthetic
technically you
movement.
get
Could you
Yeah.
kindly unmute yourself? So, lotus eaters. So inspired by his trip to Spain again, Pyrenees mountains, what happens here? A group of mariners, upon eating the lotus, are put into altered state and isolated from the outside world. Like Rip Van Winkle, you know, after drinking wine, he slept for 200 years. So same incident you remember here. Lotus eaters, a group of mariners, after eating lotus, they are altered, they go to altered state and they are isolated from the society. Next, Ulysses. It's a blank verse poem. So dramatic monologue. We all know that dramatic monologue. And due to his old age, Ulysses' unwillingness to return to his kingdom was Ithaca. So he was unwilling to return to his kingdom. So the poem represents his unwillingness. And here one famous quote we have: to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Next, another one is a dream of fair woman. A dream of fair women. Originally titled Legend of Fair Women. 8 beautiful women are there in this poem. So it remembers us Chaucer's work. Do you know the Legends of Good Woman was written by Chaucer. The title resembles with this. Next, Maud. Remember this Maud, M-A-U-D. It is a monodrama. Monodrama means single performance, single person's performance. Ekapatra abhinayam antam. So that is. So this was inspired by Charlotte Rosa Baring. Next, another important poem we have to remember, Charge of Light Brigade. Charge of Light Brigade, which says, which praises Crimean War. So in Charge of Light Brigade we have details of Crimean War. Next, The Princess, a medley, a serio-comic blank verse poem. Already we know that feministic views. So it is a heroic princess who foresees the world of men, and she finds a women university where men were not allowed. This is the importance of this thing. You have to remember what is the subtitle of the poem The Princess, a medley. Remember this. Medley is the subtitle of The Princess. It is in a feministically related poem. Okay. Next, some political and patriarchal poems are also there. So, in that we have Ode on the Death of the Duke of Wellington. The Duke of Wellington. And the second one is The Revenge, a ballad. Next important thing is Locksley Hall, 60 years after. 60 years after is a subtitle. Its subtitle is 60 years after. A vision of social unrest and disturbance. Actually, this Locksley Hall is the fictional childhood home. So here one famous quote we have, knowledge comes but wisdom lingers. Knowledge comes but wisdom lingers. Next, Tithonus. It's the same thing we have in Ulysses also. In Ulysses he faced old age, but here he faced old age as well as he is tired of his immortality. He was granted immortality to live forever, and unfortunately, due to the old age, he longs for death. He is willing to die. So it is a dramatic monologue. And another poem we have, Tiresias, the blind prophet of Thebes. We all know that little connection if you have. Once remember the wasteland, we have Tiresias, the blind prophet. Next, some minor poems also we have. Merlin and the Gleam. It is the spirit of Tennyson's own life. And already we, in the introduction class, I told about the defense of Lucknow. Defense of Lucknow, an important poem. Is a war song on the Sepoy mutiny and its siege of Lucknow. Siege of Lucknow during that Sepoy mutiny. Actually, as he was the Britisher, he praises British and compares Indians as traitors. He compares Indians as traitors. So, you remember this one, Defense of Lucknow, a very important poem which is connected to India's Sepoy mutiny, and in this poem, he underestimates, undervalues Indians in this poem, because as he was the poet laureate of England, it was his duty to praise Britisher. So due to that, he might have written this poem. I think so. Next important poem is Break, Break, Break. 3 breaks. So pathetic longing, pathetic yearning of his friend, already we know that, Arthur Henry Hallam, AHH. Okay? So crossing the bar. One more important poem. So we have to have a glance over these important poems. Crossing the bar. It compares the depth with crossing the sandbar between the rivers of life, between the river of life. Life is a river, crossing the sandbars. Okay? So here we have a line, sunset and evening star, and a clear call for me. So famous line. Next, the dreamer. The important poem, the last poem of Lord Tennyson, which anticipates his death. All is well, that ends well. All is well, that ends well, is the refrain of this poem. Is the refrain of this poem. Mostly, we have to focus primarily the important poems. Once again, you look at them. Mariana, it's connected with the Shakespeare's Measure for Measure, and poems chiefly lyrical, so collection of poems. Next, Lady Charlotte, a ballad. Sir Galahad, Holy Grail. Next, 2 voices, already we know that. Thoughts of Suicide, first title. And some 3 love poems we have. The Miller's Daughter, Gardener's Daughter, Oenum, and the Palace of Art, which was written against the slogan of Art for Art's sake. Lotus Eaters. We have a trip, he had a trip to Spain, and the Pyrenees mountains frequently occur in his poems, and Ulysses. So his Ulysses' unwillingness to return to the kingdom, his kingdom was Ithaca, and a dream of fair woman. The title resembles Legend of Fair Woman. There were 8 beautiful women in this poem, and Maud. So it's a monodrama. Remember, monodrama, Maud, monodrama, Maud, monodrama. Remember this. Question may be asked: Maud, a poem, a ballad, dramatic monologue, monodrama. So like this, options may be given. We have to choose, but for that you should have a clear idea about it. Next, a Charge of Light Brigade, which says about the Crimean War. The Prince, a medley. It's a blank verse poem. It's about feministic views are there. In this, the princess wants to establish a women's university where men are not allowed. Already we know that in Room of One's Own, where female were not allowed to visit a library. So that connection you have to remember. And the political and patriotical poems are there. So Ode on the Death of Duke of Wellington. The Revenge, next one is Locksley Hall. Here you remember it's a subtitle 60 years after. A vision of social unrest and disturbance. Actually, what is Locksley Hall? It's a fictional childhood home. You remember that? And knowledge comes, but wisdom lingers. That's a famous quote from this poem. And Chithonus, Greek mythological poem. So a dramatic monologue. So mostly his poems are dramatic monologues. Ayrsias, the blind prophet of Thebes, which reappears in the wasteland. Merlin and the Gleam. So it connects with his autobiography, Tennyson's autobiography. The most important thing is Defense of Lucknow and Break. It is he is yearning for his friend and Crossing the Bar. Crossing the Bar also is an elegy about philosophical inquiry into the life. What is life? What is death? So in that way, there is a lost poem, The Dreamer, which was published in 1892. A lost poem by Tennyson. It has a refrain, all is well that ends well. So this is about Alfred Lord Tennyson, the important literary figure in the Victorian era. So we further move to Browning. So before that, you may ask any doubt regarding this one. Before that, one thing you have to listen here. So when we three were preparing for NET during that period, strange thing we have to, how much preparation we have to need, that is important. We know that the Evelina is a novel, a fictional work written by Fanny Burney in 1778. So it's a subtitle, History of a Young Lady's Entrance into the World. This is the subtitle of that. So, first time when we, a previous question was this, what is the subtitle of this Evelina? This is the subtitle of which of the following fictional work that was given. And what happened, we further, while preparing our notes, we further wrote down, it starts, the fictional account, the narration starts from London. We noted that one. Okay, that was, we were very happy and went to do the exam. Unfortunately, what happened? In 1778, Evelina was published by, options. With her name, with the pseudonym, with the anonymous. Anonymous.
Sir, audio is not clear, sir.
Actually, we all selected with her name as pseudonym only. But correct answer is it was published anonymously. So why I am telling this one? Whatever we prepare, whatever, this is not the ultimate. Whenever you get a point, you insert new point, you insert that point in your notes, or underline that point, and collectively you write all the details about the poet at one place. Yes. So that it will be very useful for you to understand, to get a full idea of a particular poet. Okay, sir? So if you have any doubt regarding this Alfred Lord Tennyson, you can ask me. We will further discuss. Just for 5 minutes, because as we completed one poet, one by one, sir.
Sir, what is the famous line in the Dreamer poem, sir?
So, Dreamer poem. So, if you have time, you can get it from net, ma'am. But I haven't observed. I just, I felt refrain is the important thing there. So, all is well that ends well. So, that I noted down. When we know the importance, if for example it appears in explanation, we feel that it is important. Otherwise, how can we identify it is an important line? So that's why whenever you have free time, you just go through that poem. Particularly, those are small poems only. You just go through.
Okay, sir.
Are you there? Hello. Hello.
Sorry for the interruption. Okay. Madam call చేసింది. Okay, sir. You can ask me.
Make this bit interactive.
Sir?
Make this system little bit interactive, sir.
Not clear, sir.
Make this system little bit interactive.
So after this browning, we'll start browning. The last 15 minutes you can interact with me. So Browning, Robert Browning. So he was the master of dramatic monologue. We all know that. So he was also known as Victorian Dun. Victorian Dun. Actually, we have one more Dun. In which period we have? Yes. Okay. So the Robert Browning is known as a Victorian Dun. So mostly he was a self-learnt, self-taught. So in William Geelong it was mentioned that his father's library had 6,000 books. From that he learnt this vast knowledge he gained. So mostly self-learnt poet, Sir Robert Browning. So his works are some important works. We have to concentrate. The first work, Pauline, P-A-U-L-I-N-E. It's a fragment of a confession. A fragment of a confession. It is a tribute to Shelley. It's the first major work by Browning. So it's a short poem. Next one is Paracelsus. It's a dramatic monologue based on the life of a Swiss physician, Paracelsus. Who was Paracelsus? You remember? Swiss physician. It's a quest for perfect knowledge. It's a theme. Quest for perfect knowledge. Next one is Sardello. Sardello. It was a tiresome effort by Robert Browning for 7 years. It consists of fictionalized version of the life of Sardello. So Sardello, a 12th century Italian poet. So he became a byword for unintelligibility. Sardello. And bells and pomegranate. Bells and pomegranate. Bells and pomegranate, sir. Sardello, okay. The fictional version of life of Sardello. Sardello is a 12th century Italian poet. He became byword for unintelligibility. Unintelligibility ki byword ga nilchadu. Okay, Sardello became. So next Bells and pomegranate. So dramatic narrative plays. Here bells, poetry, pomegranate means thought. A series of poems under this title are, first one is Pippa Pauses. Pippa Pauses. In this we have an important line. God's in his heaven, all's right with the world. God is in the heaven, all is right in the world. It is the meaning of that one. It's a famous line from Pippa Pauses. You remember this? Pippa Pauses. Once a quote will be given, and we have to identify the word in which the quote is located. Next, the Pied Piper. It's a children play. We know that Pied Piper. Do you know the short story of a children's story? Do you know?
Yes, sir. Rats.
Rats. Oh, that. There was a problem of rats, and the mayor calls this a piper, and
To remove all the rats from the.
Yes. That is the children story which was written by Browning. Next, how they brought the good news from Ghent. The lost leader represents about Wordsworth. We will discuss in detail. The Lost Mistress is another a poem from this collection, Bells and Pomegranate. Home thoughts from abroad. Home thoughts from abroad and home thoughts from the sea. These are the patriotic poets. Home thoughts means patriotic. Remember this. Evelyn Hope. So, incident of French camp. My Last Duchess. So, these are the poems which were included in Bells and Pomegranate. Next, dramatic lyrics. Another collection, 1842. First published in 1842 as the third volume in a series of self-published book which is included to Bells and Pomegranates. Next one is My Last Duchess. We all know that the Duke of Ferrara, the speaker of this dramatic monologue poem. So original title, do you know? Italy. Italy. The original title of this poem. So this poem is a detailed description of about his first wife, who is his second wife. Ferrara speaks, and one famous line: all the smiles were stopped. One line is there. So previously one question appeared in Gurukula DL. What is the meaning of that one? All the smiles stopped means Ferrara killed his first wife. So his poems includes sudden surprise and violence, ambiguity. These are the important characteristics of Robert Browning poems. Next, Porphyria's Lovers. It is another poem. Madhouse Cells was published under this title. Already we have in detail about the details of this in your notes. And dramatic romances also we have here. A lost leader. It renounces or berates or scolds the poem. William Wordsworth, or what Browning considered is a desertion of liberal clause. So here, the lost leader, he criticizes William Wordsworth. That much is enough for us. The lost leader poem, what is the importance of that poem? In that poem, Robert Browning criticizes William Wordsworth. Next poem is The Laboratory, monologue of a woman speaking to the apothecary as he prepares a poison. Apothecary means a doctor. He prepares a poison which she intends to use to kill her rival in love. So these two are the dramatic romances. Next, dramatic persona. So Caliban, Calibon. So it's a monologue. Caliban, you know already, which appeared in Shakespeare's The Tempest. Next important thing, you remember this one, very important, Rabbi ben Ezra. Rabbi ben Ezra, about Abraham ibn Ezra, one of the greatest poets and mathematicians and scholars of 12th century. Rabbi ben Ezra, Arabian mathematician, poet and scholar of 12th century. It's not a biography, but it's a free interpretation of the personality. So, the poem begins with grow old along with me, the best is yet to be. Grow old along with me, the best is yet to be. Yet to be is the important line. With this, the poem begins. So next, men and women collection. Men and women collection. Here we have 51 poems. 51 poems are there. So all the 51 are not needed for us, but important. You remember, Love Among Ruins. Love Among Ruins, the first poem in the collection. Fra Lippo Lippi. It depicts 15th century real life painter. It's about a painter. Next, Toccata of Galuppi. Toccata means a piano. Piano of Gallipis. So title refers to the fact that the speaker is either playing or listening. Just title was given, but he doesn't play piano, he doesn't listen to piano. You remember that. And Mulekhe, it's about the fastest horse of an Arab's horse, Mulekhe. Next, the bishop orders his tomb at the Praxedis church. This is the one more poem. And Abt Vogler, this you have to remember, Abt, A-B-T, Abt Vogler is a musician. Abt Vogler is a musician. Next, the grammarians funeral. Another poem
చార్జర్
represents
అందుకో
a German physician. German physician.
అర్జెంట్ అర్జెంట్
Next, another important famous poem, Andrea del Sarto, as we know that it was, it is in JL syllabus. Andrea del Sarto, My Last Duchess. These two poems are included in JL syllabus. Already somewhat you know that about it. It is about a Renaissance artist, Andrea del Sarto.
నాకు అది ఇష్టం
Iambic pentameter
అక్షరానికి
uses. Iambic pentameter. Next, child Roland to the dark tower came. It is also an important poem. Next, which forms the last verse of the poem, King Lear. You remember, connection is there. And another one is one word more. The poem, one word more, addressed to his wife. Next, the last ride together.
అయినా
Another poem.
ఇక్కడ ఉండాలి
Next, Crosby. Next, an epistle containing the strange medical experience of Harshish, the Arab physician. Next, Asalando, 1889 poem. Next, another important, this you have to remember compulsory, The Ring and the Book. The Ring and the Book. A long dramatic narrative poem. Long dramatic narrative poem. A verse novel of 21,000 lines. A verse novel of 21,000 lines. And published in 12 books. It is twice as long as Paradise Lost. This is the importance of The Ring and the Book. So here mostly you have to remember Vogler, Muleki, Grammarian's funeral, Andrea del Sarto, and child Roland to the dark tower came. Next, bells and pomegranate. Next, Pied Piper, Pippa Passes, Fra Lippo Lippi. So these are the important poems you have to remember. And next, Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So Virginia Woolf discovered her, Virginia Woolf described her as a true daughter of her age. True daughter of her age. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, so wife of Robert Browning. Next, here two important works you have to remember. The Battle of Marathon, a poem. The Cry of the Children, it is against the child labor. Strong protest against the employment in coal mines and factories, as already we know that historical facts లో మనం చెప్తున్నాం రిఫార్మ్స్ యాక్ట్స్ వచ్చినాయని. Sonnets from Portuguese. Sonnets from Portuguese. 1850. So how many poems are there in this collection, do you know? There are 44 sonnets. There are 44 sonnets for Browning, Robert Browning, love songs, love sonnets.
ഇന്നലെ చెప్పിന
So, Portuguese refers to the 16th century Portuguese poet. One thing. And one more assumption is that Portuguese is the pet name of Elizabeth Barrett Browning.
థ్యాంక్ యూ పద్దు.
Okay? So this you have to remember. Next, Casa Guidi Windows. It's another important poem. It expresses Mr. Browning's enthusiasm for cause of Italian liberty, Italian freedom movement. And one more important thing, Aurora Lee is an important epic novel in poem, in verse novel. This is verse novel, Aurora Lee. So written in blank verse, comprises in 9 books. Comprises in 9 books. It deals with the social problems of Victorian women. It is considered as the women's version of Prelude. Do you know Prelude? Prelude was written by William Wordsworth. So this is considered as women's version of Prelude. Remember this. And one more thing, poems before Congress. Poems before Congress. This also, you note it down. It deals with the Italian fights for freedom movement. Freedom. Italians fight for freedom. So, oh lyric love, half angel, half bird. Famous line from Ring and the Book. Line number 39 refers to Elizabeth Barrett Browning. This is Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Next, Arthur Henry Clough. So, friend of Matthew Arnold. So, he says modern novel is a modern poem. Modern novel is a modern poem. So, he devoted as an assistant to Florence Nightingale. You remember? Once in the beginning we discussed about the Crimean War. Many soldiers were wounded in Crimean War. Those were nursed by Florence Nightingale. This Florence Nightingale's assistant, Arthur Hugh Clough. And one more thing you have to remember here, in Lytton Strachey's Eminent Victorians, she is mentioned as one of the eminent Victorians. So this much story we have. Crimean War, wounded soldiers, nursed by Florence Nightingale. And Arthur Henry Clough is the assistant of Florence Nightingale. He devoted his life to for her assistance. He devoted his life. So in this way you have to connect the events to one other. Literature, if you want to remember, so connection is important. That you have to improve. How can you improve? If you read, reread, then only you can get connection. You can understand it easily. You can answer it easily. and you can eliminate the unnecessary answers, unnecessary distractions from multiple choices. Okay? Next, any more missing? You can ask me. Is this okay, sir? Please respond. Is this okay, sir, about Robert Browning and Barrett Browning? Please respond. Any new points occurred? Any new points appeared, or anything missing? So it is already to be told you that it is the amalgamation of many books and almost Wikipedia also. So you have to concentrate. So next, Matthew Arnold, the important literary figure and a poet as well as a critic. So very, very important of this Victorian age. You remember? So the eldest son of Thomas Arnold. So he was the headmaster of Rugby Chapel, a school which was run by Thomas Arnold. So all great literature is at the bottom. The criticism of life is a famous line. So his poetical works include The Strayed Reveller and other poems. So these are unrhymed lyric poems written by Matthew Arnold. It is in irregular meter. A strayed reveller. So young shepherd strayed into the palace of Circe. So the Circe enchantress, young shepherd, there is an enchantress we have in this poem. And one more important poem here is Switzerland. A poem. It comprises 7 poems addressed to Margaret, a French girl who had captivated Arnold as a young man at Bern. When he was in Bern, this girl was captivated Matthew Arnold. So this poem is addressed to Margaret. Next here important poem is there, Dover Beach. Dover Beach, published in 1867. A collection of new poems. In the collection of new poems. Now it is like a honeymoon song. It is also known as a 17th century wasteland. The wasteland actually belongs to 1922, that is the 20th century. But this Dover Beach poem is sometimes called as 17th century wasteland. Because it was set in the 19th century wasteland. 19th century wasteland. So remember this. Dover Beach, a work by Matthew Arnold. Next one is Scholar Gypsy. The Scholar Gypsy, recently this question appeared. It's a pastoral poem. A pastoral poem based upon the old legend related by Joseph Glanville, a 17th century clergyman. It is about a 17th century clergyman, Joseph Glanville. So, it is about a 17-year-old Oxford student who disappeared among gypsies. So, this is an important poem, The Scholar Gypsy, the pastoral poem. You have to remember this much is enough. Next, Hyacinth, a monody. Monody, a commemorate of author's friend, Arthur Henry Clough. It is an elegy in memory of Arnold's friend. So, it was written some 4 years after the death of Clough. Next, one more important thing you have to remember: memorial verses. Memorial verses. So, an elegy of praise and lament to Wordsworth. So, in this, 3 poets were included. You remember these memorial verses. One is Byron, Wordsworth, and Goethe. Goethe, German romantic poet. These 3 are included in the memorial verses. Once one question appeared, memorial verses includes his poets. 4 options are given, different poets are given. So in that way, you have to remember Byron, Goethe, and Wordsworth, memorial verses. This is enough for you. Next, Rugby Chapel, 1857 published work, poem. In this, Arnold plays a noble and well-deserved tribute to the memory of his father. Already we know that Rugby Chapel is a school founded by his father. So that's why. So Rugby Chapel is a morning song, morning poem, we can say. So remember this: Scholar Gypsy, Rugby Chapel, Hyacinth, memorial verses. These 4. Besides these 4, you remember Dover Beach, the 19th century wasteland known as. Next, one more important thing also we have: stanzas from the Grandee Chartereuse. Grandee Chartereuse. Stanzas from Grandee Chartereuse. So, philosophical poem of 35 stanzas. So, in this only we have a famous quote which I mentioned in the beginning of our session. The dilemma of wandering between 2 worlds. One is dead, the other powerless to be born, which represents the Victorian Age. So this famous quote is taken from stanzas from the Grandee Chartereuse. So this is important. Next one is Empirical of Etna. Empirical of Etna. It was published anonymously in 1852 collection. So actually it was censored and republished empirical of Etna. So this you remember. Next, stanzas on the author of Obermann. Obermann, a French novel. So remember. Next, Merope, a tragedy. Verse drama, a regular drama on the Greek model with chorus and a little action. Next, Shohrab and Rustum, a mini epic blank verse. The story is taken from Shahnama, Firdausi's Persian poet, you know, Firdausi. He wrote Shahnama, the 11th century Persian poet. So Shohrab and Rustum was taken from that. Next, he turned into prose after this. So, essays in criticism. One confusion is there, essay on criticism, essays in criticism. Do you know the difference? One is by Alexander Pope. This is essays in criticism is by Matthew Arnold. So his critical works, Culture and Anarchy. So in this you have to remember the human society. He divides the human society into three categories, three classes. One is barbarians, the rich and aristocrats. Next one is Philistines, the middle, the money-making business people. These are next populace. Third category is populace, the working class. These are raw and underdevelopment. So three categories you have to remember: barbarians, Philistines, populace. So these three human society categories of human society is in the Culture and Anarchy of Matthew Arnold. Next, he also popularized the phrase sweetness and light, which was coined by Swift in the Battle of Books. He coined the term Swift. So Hellenism and Hebraism, all these will be included in your criticism notes, and this Matthew Arnold's criticism notes. Up to this, many important quotes are there regarding this Matthew Arnold's criticism. So all these you will get from criticism. Next, pre-Raphaelite poets we have. Pre-Raphaelite movement, Dante Gabriel Rossetti, D.G. Rossetti. So an important work is there, Blessed Damozel. So here one question appeared. She had dash lilies in her hand and the stars in her hair were dash. Here she had 3 lilies in her hand. How many lilies? 3 lilies in her hand. And the stars in her hair were 7. 3, 7. Lilies 7, stars. This is a Blessed Damsel, an important poem of D.G. Rossetti. This you remember. Nothing more than this will be asked. Next, Christina Rossetti. Christina Rossetti. She wrote her poems under the pseudonym of Helen Alaini. Helen Alaini, her pseudonym. She contributed 7 poems to the magazine, the journal, that is the Germ. Already we know that. Pre-Raphaelite movement, the journal, the name is the Germ. In the Germ, her poems, 7 poems are appeared. Next, her important poem is there, Goblin Market. Goblin Market and other poems, a collection, but in this Goblin Market as a poem. So in this Lara and Lizzie are 2 characters are there. She compares both. One is a pleasure seeking and moral, and the other is Lara is pleasure seeking and Lizzie resists the temptation. She is firm and stands for morals, but whereas Lizzie easily tempted by the enchanters. So this is about Goblin Market. You remember Goblin Market poem? So it is a minor work, but it has its importance. So you remember this one. Next, William Morris. William Morris. She mostly inspired by John Ruskin. So, artist and writer, friend of D.G. Rossetti. So here you remember one Kelmscott Press. Kelmscott Press. He founded. This you remember? Kelmscott Press. So, next one is Earthly Paradise. His masterpiece, Earthly Paradise. Earthly Paradise is masterpiece, lengthy collection of retelling of various myths and legends of Greece. All these Victorian poems are based on Greek mythology. So his other works include Dream of John Ball. Next, News from Nowhere. News from Nowhere. Classic utopian socialism, utopian bad, good place, utopia. Dystopia means bad place. So News from Nowhere is his work. So this is about William Morris. So I hope you might have understood. So now any queries from your side? Last 10 minutes. Continue. Then how to mostly you ask depending on the topics and method of preparation. Any queries from your side, dear friends?
No queries. No queries. Any queries? Any queries? How? What queries?
queries.
Any queries? Please say. Any queries have? What queries?
Now you can unmute yourself and ask doubts. Is it clear? Thank you. So this is not ultimate. One thing you have to remember, whatever the words the poets written, you just go beyond the lines. So not the first 2-3 lines important. If you have time, this is important area we are covering here. That is enough. But if you want to score, if you want to create more collection of notes for the net or other examinations, you have to collectively write from different areas. You collect notes. Wherever you get any point, you note them in your book. That is my advice. So, any more?
నాన్న ఇప్పుడు ఫోన్ చేసింది ఎవరు నాన్న
Stop.
సైలెంట్
Is it okay for you? Or little bit boring? Please respond. Be frank. So I provide quiz
అంకుల్ కరెంట్ పోయింది
in your
రవీంద్ర అంకుల్
in our group. So try to attempt the quiz, and you have to attempt compulsory. And once you get yourself, how much subject you are getting, so that is important. So please respond. Keshav sir.
Particularly. Yeah, good evening, Ravinder sir, and thank you for your class. It was okay from my side, and okay, but more explanation is given actually. More explanation is given than required, I think.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Is it needed to be cut short? Please respond. Ma'am, check. Okay. Is it okay? The method, the way of approach. So kindly give me feedback so that I will improve myself. So that I will provide you in a better manner. Kindly give me your feedback of this session.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I want to add some words.
Yes.
Yeah, good evening everyone. This is Markandeya. Yeah, sir, Ravinder sir, you have given a beautiful explanation which was beyond the lines in our notes. Actually, I request all the participants please maintain a notebook while any class, whether it is literature, criticism, or whatever it may be. Please note down the extra points what we are doing other than the notes, or other than in any notes whenever a novel or any important poem. So it is not possible to do all the summary or very important lines to include in the notes. So please write down the running notes whenever it is required. It is better to again you can read those notes. That will be very helpful. So my request is to maintain a running notes while you are in the class. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your feedback, Mark sir, and thank you for your suggestion. Any other? I repeat once again, this is not ultimate. You have to repeatedly, continuously read and reread and re-read, I think. Then only you will get a clear-cut idea, and without confusion you will try to answer. You will try to eliminate the unnecessary options given by the examiner in the question paper. So my advice is, whenever you are repeatedly reading, then you will get a clear-cut idea, and no confusion will be there. You will be successful, and you will be successful in your examination and in further examinations also. Any more? So tomorrow we'll decide tomorrow's session. So we'll try. We are trying to provide notes as early as possible, because if we have a little bit incompletion also, we are not satisfied with our notes. We are trying to make it completely perfect for you. That's why 1 or 2 days we are taking more time. So don't worry, within a short period we will provide you the notes, and meanwhile whatever is going on in the classroom, you just revise them, and if you have time, you go through that William Geelong book and R.D. Trivedi and Routledge. So if you have time, otherwise you just type the book important work in Google, you will get some more points, so you add them to your notes. So in that way you collectively improve your subject. Merely sticking on to one type of notes is not at all good, I think, my opinion.
Yeah.
So any more?
Yes, sir.
One thing, already literature part is completed. Literature part in the notes is completed. Only a little bit unity and criticism part is remained. So today it will be finalized by tomorrow evening or the next day morning. The material will be dispatched to you. Surely, this is the final request to all the participants. Just please be patient for just 2 days.
Yeah.
Okay, sir, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ravinder sir and Markandeya sir. I want to give one point regarding the material. Actually, we have plenty of notes that is enough for cracking JRF. Frankly speaking, JRF and NET syllabus. So that is more than enough for a set actually. So now we are in a thought that how to reduce the notes actually, because reduce in the sense that is written actually in written format by handwritten notes. We have compiled the notes in a PDF file actually, and we are checking through the material again and again, because if there any missing point like that, or is there any excess given, is excess material is given for the particular point, because set is such a type of exam. So if you memorize the names of books, some critical concepts and some explanation about the each work, it's enough. It's more than enough for set examination. But whereas if you go for net examination, the level or the depth of the question will be different. It's completely different from the set examination, because you have to agree it, because the set standard is not that much tough like net examination. So it's very easy examination. So when you receive the material also, you need not to worry about each and every point actually. The first reading, what I am telling is, in the first reading, So after first reading, when you are going for the second reading, you can add 1 or 2 points again, because that is already given in the notes, but you have to keep on adding, keep on making corrections, keep on making some more points for each topic. So that is how the preparation goes. And as Ravinder sir said, there is no end for preparation. Actually, there is no end for reading, there is no end for literature. Because I frankly giving one example. So when you go for PhD, what happens? You can even do your PhD on a single work, single book of an author, or you can take one author or 2 authors or 3 authors. So that means the perfection, the level of the depth of the question, the depth of the literature is very, very high. So we cannot confine to one work of that. But another thing is also important. In certain net examination, they won't go dive into that much level. So most of the questions are peripheral, concept based, author based, work based. That's it. So if you understand the concept, because as Ravinder sir said today, I want to add 1 point for that. Why we need to study the historical concepts? History is very important. It always modifies the literature. It always reflected in the literature. So as Ravinder sir said, you have to concentrate on Victorian compromise. What is Victorian compromise? Who coined the Victorian compromise term? And how this Victorian compromise concept is projected in the works of Victorian literature, the works of Victorian, we can say. So that type of study should be done, because there is a conflict between the science and religion. It's a continuous conflict. There is a conflict between the rich and the poor, because due to the industrialization, the system, that means the industries gave money to one side and difficulties, problems to other side. So that's what we get in the works of the Victorian. So if you understand what is hungry 40s, so people suffered a lot for eating. They don't have food because of the potato blight disease, because of the hungry 40s. The 1840 is called as a problematic era. They did not get food, enough food for the living. So these are all historical concepts, and this is definitely questioned in the examination too. Sometimes we may get a question. There are previous questions like great exhibition was done in which year? Hungry 40s. Even the Chartist movement, as sir explained. So all these are also very important, and just please understand the concepts and relate it to the particular